Okay, we're live. This is our parent interview discussion. Let's start it off. Who wants to go first?
I got Rachel.
Sounds
Go ahead and go.
Okay, so I interviewed a coworker of mine, and he has a 6-year-old daughter. She is a single parent. When I was talking to her and going through all the questions and stuff like that, a lot of the stuff she compared it to the kids that she was working with at the time, because she works with preschool aged, and that's what her daughter was when a lot of this stuff was going on. So she didn't necessarily compare it to one of her other children. It was just children she'd seen at work and stuff like that. What else? So going through what she thought about everything was, she thought that physically her daughter developed quicker than normal. She says that her, as a baby, she was super active, and that she just wanted to start walking right away. So at 9.5 months she was walking. She said that she picked up language pretty easy. She was putting sentences and stuff together by age 2. A lot of the stuff she says was physical stuff, she was potty trained at a decent time, which I thought was pretty normal. It was 2.5 being potty trained. When she started talking about kids with special needs and stuff like that, she hadn't worked with a lot of different special needs kids, and we do have some at the preschool we work at right now. And she talked about how she didn't really like working with the special needs kids as much, because she couldn't anticipate what kind of behaviors they were going to have or how they were going to react to something that she said. So she tried to keep contact with them, minimal, avoiding eye contact. If she did have to talk to them or correct them or something like that, it was very direct, short and to the point kind of stuff, so that she didn't have basically so that she wouldn't get a whole lot of different emotions, because some of the kids that we work with are super aggressive. So you say something and they'll just lash out. So she wanted to keep the situations as minimal as possible. What else? She talked about when it talks about having concerns and stuff over other children. She talked about delays and stuff like that. And as a teacher, you see delays because you're working with the kids all the time on improving their physical, mental, social, all those kind of things. So you see it more. And so she said there was a child that came into her class. It was pretty obvious to the teachers that he had a speech delay. And what they did was they went and talked to the parents about it and got the parents aware of the situation that was going on. And then from there, the parents went and received outside counsel. So they went and got a consultation from a speech therapist, and the speech therapist agreed and said he does have a speech delay, and he was able to receive therapy from there on. So, and then she said that the speech therapy improved his speech so much, and it helped him in all aspects, socially and emotionally as well, being able to communicate what he wanted. Yeah, so that's what she talked about.
That's really interesting, especially because I can relate to that little boy. I went through the exact same thing, sort of.
Yeah. Okay, who's next?
I'll go.
Sounds good.
Okay. So I know they said not to disclose who you're talking about, but my mom made it very clear she was completely fine with me talking about my brother. So, which I wanted to learn more anyway. So I have a brother who is high functioning autistic. I am the second of 8, and he is the sixth child. So just a few months after birth, my mother could already tell that he was different. She started to realize, I mean, he did everything differently. Like she said, if she would hug him and he wasn't expecting it, he would react like kind of almost angry if he seemed like he was deep in thought. Like it's almost like he needed to know you were coming into his space and he needed to welcome you into his space. And all of our other kids weren't like that, so she thought that was kind of weird. He didn't necessarily smile as much at first, and too much things going on was very overwhelming for him. Sometimes you would even like he was really focused on something. If you kissed him, like he wouldn't even react. And so at a very young age, she's like, okay, I mean, potty, everything he was behind him, potty training, speaking. He had a hard time socially, and so at the age of 2, she actually went to seek help. So she knew he'd only get more and more behind, and she knew something was different about him. And so she went and found this program in our area that helps children with delays catch up before they start school. And because of this program, he started speaking more, and it helped so that when he started school, I mean, he still was obviously different. At this point, he wasn't diagnosed with autism. It was just that it was like a developmental delay, they just called it. And very quickly in the classroom, they realized like he just wouldn't pay attention to certain things, or he was just so lost that they had it's called a paraprofessional teacher come and start to help be in the classroom, and he got one-on-one attention to help him keep up with things. So was able to be in a regular classroom, but just receive the one-on-one help that he needed. And my mom was saying she was really grateful that he wasn't her first child, because she thinks that she would have been more in denial about it. Which she still felt like she kind of was in a sense, like, oh, he's just delayed, or whatever, he's just late. And she said she really had to pray a lot and to make sure she could figure out who she went to and the help he needed. And but because of being high functioning autistic, it's just been really hard for him as he's gotten older. Like he's been able to do okay in school, but socially is something that he still has a hard time developing. He'll just say things that you and me would know not to say. Like, for example, at 6 years old, he saw a man smoking, and he was like, and he told him, "Don't you know that will kill you? That's bad for you, and you need to put that cigarette away, or whatever." And it's something that we would know. This man obviously knows it's bad for him. He's doing it anyways. But for him, he felt like he was helping this guy. And then when he just kind of tried to shrug him off, he was like, "Do you even care about yourself?" Whatever. And my mom had to kind of pull him away. And so he's just had a hard time with, learning when things are appropriate or not. Just all the social cues that we watched it on our day this week. It's been hard for him. He wants to be normal. He's so high functioning that like he recognizes he's different. And so it's been really hard on him emotionally to want to fit in, to want to have friends, but not know how to, in a sense. And my mom said like one of the biggest things that's been hard for her as a mother watching this happen is that she feels like there's only so much she can do. She wants to have him find like a perfect friend or whatever, but it's hard, and she wants him to be able to have a job and do all these things he wants to do, but she doesn't know if he'll be able to. And so I think she said the hardest thing is one day him having to kind of face reality. Like, where's the line of pushing somebody and telling them they can do things and then being realistic, And so he's starting to get a little bit older now, and so it's kind of hard because he's like, I'm going to go on a mission. I'm going to go out to school and leave home, and he's most likely not going to be able to, do all those things. And so even though he's progressed a lot, they're still not, quote unquote, like we were talking about, normal or whatever. And so it's been kind of a hard situation, but it was interesting to get to hear some of the stories she shared of recognizing it and about how much getting in there early really did help. Even though he's still struggling, it could have been even harder to deal with. So that was kind of
Okay, I'll go next. So I also talked to my mom, but she did more of like a broad to all of her children. I mean, she focused on me because I think because I was asking the questions, but she did talk about everyone. Um, so me and my big brother are 10 months apart, and so we pretty much did everything together. And so he was a little bit delayed with like walking and talking and teething and all that stuff. And my mom thinks it's because, well, she's like, I don't know if I was a better parent to you or if it was because I was preoccupied with a surprise second child and I wasn't able to give him the attention that he probably needed to get to those developmental checklist, those spots that he needed to be. Um, and so we ended up learning to walk together and we learned to go to the bathroom together and we did everything together. And I think that was hard for her to do that both at once because it was like having it twins, except one was a lot bigger. But she definitely thinks that where you are in the age of siblings affects you because your parents, I mean, if you're the first child, you're kind of a test run. And Katie, you were the second child. Like, you're still kind of a guinea pig, but they definitely raise you better than they did their first child. Um, and so she talked about that a lot, about how she thinks that parents definitely evolve just as much as the children do. Um, and so back when we were kids, I think that we lived in Australia at that time, and I think that special needs and delays were a bit of a taboo topic still. And so when I asked her about those, of if she knew of any special services that we were given, or if she was involved in any of that, she was like, I honestly don't know of anything. And I asked if she knew anyone that had children with special needs. And she kind of just talked about the taboo topic of it and that she grew up in a small town. There were no special needs children in her town. So she's never really been involved in that. And I'm an early childhood special education major, so I'm involved in that a lot, um, which I think is really great. But obviously, some people don't know about it, and so we need to make that more less of a taboo topic so we can help those parents who do. And I love that your mom was so willing to go out and get help for your brother. And I definitely think that I agree with what she said that if he was one of the first children she had, it would have been harder for her. But because she did progress with the six children that she had, then it was great. Um, and then the last thing I think we talked about was, um, let me read it. Oh, so she talked about how she had a friend who had a brother who had like a behavior issue and would hit and scratch and just not listen to his parents. And she noticed how people treated him differently than they would his sister. Um, and so she talked about the importance of getting that help when they need the help and not just kind of trying to do with it yourself because there are so many different supports out there that we have available to us, especially these days, that we can help children with issues with delays and special needs. So that's what we talked about. Yeah.
I can go next if you guys want. All right. So I chose to interview my oldest sister. I'm the fourth of five kids. I have three older sisters and a little brother. And all my sisters are married, and it's weird to think about still, even though it's almost happening, but they're all pregnant right now. So it's kind of weird. Two of them are having their thirds, and one of them's having her first. So I decided to interview my oldest sister, Julia, who has two little girls, and she's expecting her first baby boy. And I have noticed as I lived at home and everything before I came up here to campus and everything, because my sister and her husband and their kids live with my parents and everything, is that I have noticed like a bit of delays in a little bit, it seems like, in them. So they have two little girls that are 4 and almost 3 years old. So one of the things we talked about was how when it comes to their teething, her oldest, they've both been really late teethers, like very late. But then with her almost 3-year-old, she's been really late with her teething. Like she still has her back molar, so she's still, like getting her teeth, having her teeth come in, and it's been, painful when a child teethes. It's really painful for them. Makes you really sad to see them suffer from getting their teeth brought in. And one thing that's also really interesting is that with my niece Isla, the one who I'm talking about, she can talk pretty well for her age, but she does jumble her letters around. Like when she says her R's, she'll replace them with, like, instead of saying the R sound, she'll replace them with a W sound. So like when I would ask her, like when they found out what they were having, I asked her, Isla, are you having a baby brother or baby sister? And she says, a baby brother. So she goes, a baby brother. So she kind of replaces them with each other, which is really cute. But also it's kind of hard to see how we keep trying to teach her, no, this is how you say it. Like she also had a hard time with her P's. Like when I would try to teach her how to say popcorn, she wouldn't say the P, she would replace it with the W instead. And she's not being checked out for speech therapy just yet, but my sister and her husband are thinking of getting her checked out if this continues after her birthday, which is in a few weeks. And then we talked a lot about, children with special needs. And in our home ward, actually, there's this one family they have a daughter who is very special needs. She can't talk. There's actually a very special calling in our ward where you're her assistant, like you help her, like get to her class and just help her, and then if she needs her parents, you need to go get them. And my nieces these two nieces of mine have asked questions like, why doesn't she talk? Why does she walk funny? And my sister and her husband had a family night with them where they explained about how, Heavenly Father made us different for a reason, and that's okay. It's good that we're all different from each other, because if we were all the same, then that would be boring. And they just taught them, yes, she's different, but you can still be a good friend and just treat her nicely and everything. Don't be mean to her. And they really listened to that, even though they're only 4 and 2 years old, because after they had that lesson, the next day was Sunday. Actually, they had this like on a Saturday night. It was a late family night. The next day at Sunday, I saw my 2 nieces going over to this girl, and they kept asking her if she wanted any help, and they held her hands as she walked. And we're just, because this girl's a lot older than them. This girl's like 10 years old, and they're only like little toddlers, but they were just wanting to help and I heard one of them telling her, it's okay, Meg, Heavenly Father made us different, which is just really interesting. And then also, so yeah, the basic thing about with my interview is that my 2 nieces are very, they're sisters, but they're very different. Like one of them started potty training earlier than the other. The other one is still having a hard time with it. But one thing I also liked talking about was it's just really interesting, like how with Katie and Rachel, your guys' experience and everything, and it's just like I can relate to a lot of the things you talked about. Like Katie, you talked about you have a brother who's autistic. I have a cousin who's autistic too, and he's very high functioning, but you can tell that he does still have some struggles. Like one thing that everyone's trying to help him with is his things he'll say. Like he is actually coming up here to BYU Idaho next fall, but he really wanted to get into Provo, and when he found out he didn't get in, he was so mad, and he even went on his Facebook and put, I will find a way to make BYU regret rejecting me. And so we're trying to teach him, you don't say that. If you say that, that's going to make it worse. So we're trying to tell him, Ben, we know you're 18 years old now, but still, you need to understand that some of the things you say are just not good. It's not very good social skills. And then I also have a cousin who was just like me. He had a hard time talking. When he was really little, when I would say hi to him, I thought he would learn how to say my name. Like, because most kids, when they learn how to say my name, they say Mantha for, Samantha. But he couldn't say that very well. He called me, it's so weird for me to think about, he called me Dada. but then he got the help he needed for speech. And I also talked to his mom about this with this interview. I talked to 2 different people because I felt like it would be good. So she explained that, you know, him learning how getting the help he needed for his speech was tough for her because she felt like, you know, oh, this means he's going to be very different from everyone. He's going to get bullied. But but since she got him checked out at a very young age, he was able to like learn right away how to talk. And these days, he's almost 11. He still has a hard time with saying certain words, but for the most part, he's very like really good at coming up with words. Like he knows a lot of really big words for a 10-year-old, which is pretty crazy, but it's just really interesting how with my sister, when I interviewed her about like the 2 differences between her 2 kids, because they're just, I kept thinking they're so similar in a lot of ways, but then when I look at them now, I realize, oh yeah, I can definitely see the differences they have with their teething, their potty training. One of them was more eager to walk, the other one was too scared to, but then over time, they come around and learn how to do things in their own way. So, yeah. I don't know if that made any sense.
No, it was good.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Shirley, you're up.
Right. Okay, so I talked to my mom, and so like there's in my family there's me, which I'm the oldest, and I'm 19, and then my sister that's a year younger than me, she's 18, and then I have a 2-year-old sister, so there's quite a big gap. And but anyway, so my little sister was like kind of delayed a little bit, like with crawling and walking and stuff, but that's only because she had like 0 interest, which probably had to do with her having like way older siblings and everything. But anyway, crap, I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, so, and then she mostly talked about like mostly my little sister, but then all of us, and with my other sister, she was kind of late and everything too, but for the most part, I was like more or less ahead of most things. And anyway, she thought it was like, talked about how it was really interesting how like we all developed at our own rates, and we were all like had kind of did things in a different order and everything, which was interesting. And she also talked about like she works at an elementary school, and she does have like some interaction with kids with special needs, and it's really interesting like watching her interact with them, and they just adore her. And like it's really funny because there's this one that always, he loves hugs, and so he always like gives hugs to people and even random strangers. And sometimes I'd go to work with my mom, and then she would and like mainly just because I was like standing by her, he'd like give her a hug, and then he'd give me a great big hug and a smile and everything, and that's really cute. But anyway, and I also talked with my aunt, and she has 6 kids, and all of them, like for the most part, they all have like they there weren't really any like disabilities and everything. And I asked her like how she felt around like around kids with disabilities and stuff, and she brought up that she has a sibling who has kids that have special needs and everything, and she's like kind of uncomfortable with them, but then she also like, well, she was uncomfortable with them at first when she first like tried to interact with them, but then the more she's interacted with them, she's been able to feel more comfortable and see ways that she can help them and stuff. And I think that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So let's start into the questions. Okay, we did one. So after doing the interview, what is your sense of normal? What does normal mean?
Well, I think we all talked about delays or being behind, and we live in a world now where like we have the internet and stuff, so I think it's really easy to go online and say, when's the average age a baby crawls? Or when do kids normally talk? And so I feel like the normal is if we fall into this range that people have told us is the normal range. You know, I don't know.
That's a really good point.
I, for the interview, actually like looked up because she was telling me all these things like, oh, my daughter was super early at this. And I looked up like what the range was online. I was like, oh, it's from like 9 months to 2 years was like the range was like of what was normal. And her daughter was in like the 9 months. So I was like, yeah, she was like right at the beginning. But still, it was like, oh, who knew?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting actually. I'm a child development major, and I'm taking infant and toddler development as well. And we were talking a lot about, you know, how there are some babies that will start to learn how to walk. And I shared, oh yeah, my brother started walking when he was only 9 months, and that shocked us because we were like, that's too early. But, you know, kids, if they're ready for something, they will do it. I mean, my niece that I mostly talked about, she did want to start walking, but it was so hard for her to walk on her own. Like, I would help her just by like we would do this thing where we would practice where I would sit her in this little booster seat, and then I would be right, so here's my niece, here's me, and then that she would practice getting up on her own and try walking to me. But if I held out my hands, I mean, I love doing it because it's like, you're coming to me. But if I held my hands like this with my fingers out, she would think, oh, you're gonna help me. So she would try to grab onto my fingers because she thought I was gonna help her, but I'm telling her, no. You're doing this on your own, okay? You need to learn how to do this on your own. And at first, she hated it, and she got even more annoyed when other people would try to have her walk to them. She would only want me, even though I'm just her auntie. But then once she kept practicing and practicing, she finally overcame that fear of being by herself and not having to hold on to my fingers. And now she's not afraid to try anything. She, like, if she wants to learn how to jump off the table, she'll jump off the table without getting scared. It's really
awesome.
crazy. But yeah.
I don't know if you guys know, but we have a toddler lab here on campus.
Yeah, we do actually. Well, there's a ton, but it's great.
Yeah, there are. So I'm in one right now.
You are?
Yeah, and it's super great because you get, so they're from 18 months to 3 years, and so you get this huge range of what parents perceive as normal. And I hate the word normal for some reason, because all parents are like, oh, my child's like not normal in this area, and you know, they start to compare their children to other children in the class, which I think
that so much.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to stop doing that because it puts a lot of pressure on the child. It also puts a lot of pressure on the parents trying to get their child to I mean, obviously more pressure on the child, but the parents also, because they're just trying to get their child to be this perfect cookie cutter mold, trying to get them to be normal. So I don't think, like, to me, I don't like to use the word normal because I don't think there is a normal because everyone is different. Like, you shared about, I think, Sam, you said something about being normal.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
for me, I have some learning disabilities, and that's kind of tough sometimes. I mean, people always ask me, how do you take that in such a positive way? Like, do you ever feel like they get in the way? And I tell them, yeah, there are times where I hate them, but I always tell myself, this is only temporary. When I'm resurrected, Heavenly Father will make me the perfect person that I am. He'll make me the perfect thing that I can be. And especially with like delays, like I didn't learn how to talk till I was about 3 years old. I was a complete mute child, and that scared my grandpa so much because he was worried that I would never learn how to talk. And he would tell my parents, if you don't get her checked out right now to see if she qualifies for speech therapy, I will do it. So it's pretty interesting. What child lab are you in? Which one are you at?
Tuesday mornings.
No, I mean like which lab? Like the North lab, the East lab?
Oh, yeah, I have no clue.
Okay, because I'm taking Child 150, Foundations of Early Childhood, and we're doing a project where we're going to come in and do a little project with the preschoolers. So maybe I'll see you
Oh,
there.
yeah, so they're two different classes.
Okay.
So there's preschool and toddler. I'm in toddler right now. I'm in preschool next. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's cool.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Does anyone else have any comments for normal?
What?
I said, does anyone else have any more comments on being normal?
No one's normal. Deal with it.
Well, yeah, so for me, the sense of like normal, it's hard because you want your child to be like better than everyone else. Like, you obviously, you're a parent and you're like, you want your child to succeed, you want them to be doing great, but your expectations for your child have to be realistic. And so, like, I'm a preschool teacher right now, so I work with 3 to 4 year olds. And we had to like send out like a memo to parents being like, this is where your child should be, like if they're typically developing, and like you don't need to have like higher expectations for them, because like some of them wanted them to be writing already, and I was like, they're 3, like
no rush.
By the time they get to kindergarten, like that's when you want to like start worrying about it. Like you don't need to be worrying about when they're 3 anyways. So we had to like, but then it was also like not that great sending out those expectations, because like then some parents whose kids weren't there yet, they were like, my child's not here yet, what are you doing about it? And I was like, some kids just like have to work through it slower, and like we're preschool, so like we're working on it, but it's still like you can only do so much, you can only have their attention for so long, and then they're just like done with you. So it's like, it's super hard to find like that balance between like teaching them enough so that they're actually enjoying and like still having fun as a child, and making sure that they have like some kind of curriculum. But, yeah.
It's tough teaching kids. It can be tough. I mean, I don't teach preschool, but I have 4 little nieces, and one of my nieces, I have to tell her what she's like. She has a really bad habit of not listening to the rules of my parents' house, like no jumping on the couch. You do not take paper from there. And it's so weird. She's 4 years old, but she'll act like a teenager about it. Like when I tell her, Addie, no, you don't jump on the couch, okay? You understand? And she goes like this. Fine. It's like, you're like 4 years old. You're not a teenager. Stop trying to act like one. Not cool. I am trying to look out for you and not make sure you don't get in trouble, okay? I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just trying to help you not get in trouble, okay? So that gives you no right to act like a teenager, okay?
That's super funny. Yeah, we have a lot of personalities in our class, for sure.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Kids are great.
But I really think like being normal really just depends on that child and like what parents like expectations are set for that child individually. So
definitely.
That the gospel is such a blessing in the sense of like, for example, my mom, she found peace in prayer and knowing what she needed to help her. And I think the same thing comes with being normal. Like, for example, like my son was behind with like crawling or whatever, but like I remember when I was like worried about it because he was my first child, and like behind as in he crawled at 9 months. Oh no, but I was a first time mom, and I was like, oh no. And I remember I said a prayer. I just remember I felt peace. Like father and teaching him, and he's going to be fine. And so I feel like what's really nice is when we feel like all these expectations coming at us and be normal, better than normal, whatever, when we turn to Heavenly Father, like, we can just find so much.
How many kids do you have,
Not
Katie?
worried. Huh?
How many kids do you have?
I have 3. I have 1 in heaven, and I have 2 here.
Aw. That's another thing that I love about when it comes to with kids. I mean, I always get this like peaceful feeling about, you know, children who died before 8 years old, that they're instantly sent to the celestial kingdom. Like, for example, right now, I've been having a really tough week because I just found out a good friend of mine from primary from several years ago who did go inactive, was killed, shot and killed and everything. And one thing that just gives me a lot of comfort is that he has 2 sisters who are in heaven who died before they were even born. But I always get this comforting feeling that knowing, yeah, even though he died after the age of 8, he's going to be, you know, judged and everything, but then they're at the celestial kingdom, they still get the chance to get to know him. Like, I kept getting this comforting feeling that right now, as soon as he passed, that he saw them running towards them, and they're towards him, and he's like, "Who are you?" And they're like, "We're your sisters. We've been waiting for this for so long to finally meet one of our brothers." So it just gives me a lot of comfort in knowing that, yes, even though he's going to be judged, but then they're not because they died before the age of 8, they still will get the chance to be with their parents and their brothers and everything. So it's just a great feeling. I'm sorry, I know that's really like kind of emotional. I mean, I'm glad I didn't cry about it, but it just gives me a lot of comfort in knowing that, especially with going through this tough week about my friend's passing. But yeah.
Okay, are you ready to move on to
Yeah.
the next question? Okay. Did you find that parents were often the last ones to know if there were a delay or problem with their child? How did they come to that awareness? Did you get a sense of whether or not parents were receptive to receiving services?
So with that girl I mentioned in my thing about my nieces helping, that little girl, right off the bat, her parents knew there was going to be something that she was going to probably be delayed for the rest of her life, because what I remember is that she was born when I was about 10 years old, but all I remember was when she was born, it was like, oh yeah, the Hunts had their baby, it's amazing. And then 2 days later, my dad and my parents are going to the hospital, and I was like, why are you guys going to the hospital? And they said, well, the Hunt's baby is she's starting to have these really bad problems, like she's seizing and everything, so we're going with them, and your dad is going to be part of the people who give her a blessing. And yeah, so the parents had an idea. They kept thinking, if this is happening, then that must mean something's going to be different about her. And she is. She has 2 older brothers. They're both fine. They talk. They're both, I hate saying it too, normal. But she, you know, is going to need help for the rest of her life. She's going to not be able to go away on her own and everything. But it's great that her parents knew right away that there was going to be something. And they still love her so much. Like in sacrament meeting when I'm home from school and I see them, like I love this moment where I see one of the older brothers like holding her on his lap to calm her down. And he's like hugging her so tight and just smiling at her and giving her these big kisses and just saying, you know, he gave a talk actually for my first week back, and he said, I don't care if she's different. She's still my sister. She's still normal to me. I don't care. But it's just great to see how much they knew that this was going to happen, and they chose to embrace it rather than be like, oh great, this is going to be a nightmare. They embrace it and just love her for who she is and know that one day she'll be able to talk and be the best person that God wants her to be in the physical sense. So yeah.
From what?
So
Go ahead. You go ahead.
go for it. Are you sure?
Like 2 seconds. I was just going to say, from listening to everyone, I would say that we feel like if people have had other children, they notice more quickly. And if they haven't, then they don't notice as quickly. And I think they're more in denial. But that's my.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. And like, it also depends on the child and on the parents, because I know there's a few children in my class who have some delays and their parents have no clue. And you can kind of see it coming out in class and you're like, do we tell them? Do they know? You know, it definitely just depends on who the parents are, how many kids they have, who the child is. So I think that's a tough question to answer.
I would agree with that. I also say it depends how much the parent is with their children. Because like at my preschool, they can be there for like over 8 hours at the preschool. And so
Right.
it's like we're with them most of the day. Like we see them for like more than 50% of the day, and they go home, like eat dinner, maybe have a little bit of parent time, and then they're sleeping. So it's like how much time does the parent actually have to see them like during their delay, or like see like what they're doing with them? Like are they trying to help them, or are they just letting them play, or are they just letting them watch TV? Like how involved are they? And I think that also goes into like if a parent's able to see like if they're involved in their child's life, they're most likely going to be able to see that there is a delay. If they're not involved like a whole bunch, if they worked a lot or something like that, I feel like a teacher or like a caregiver of another kind, like a nanny or like a babysitter, is going to see those delays quicker than a parent would, just because the
Definitely.
parent's not spending that much time with them.
Yeah, I really love how like it's just worth it for parents to get involved. It's so worth it. It's one of the best things about that a parent can do, especially when if they have a child who has disabilities and is delayed. Like for me, example, like my dad, he loves to help me accomplish the goals I want to do because I have some problems with my fine motor skills, which is kind of hard because people will like chopping vegetables. I can't do it perfectly, and people are like, "Why can't you do it perfectly? Are you stupid?" It's like, no, okay, God just made me this way for now, but I know I'm gonna be perfect one day. But he'll always like help me improve. Like one thing he is always when he calls me when I'm up here, he'll ask me, "Are you practicing shuffling your Monopoly deal cards?" Because I have a card game that I brought up with me, and it's a game my dad and I love to play at home together. And he's always making me practice how to shuffle the cards. So every day he's like, "Are you shuffling? Are you shuffling? Are you shuffling?" I'm like, "Yes, Dad, of course I'm shuffling, okay." But if I tell him I'm not, then he'll get really annoyed. He's like, "Sam, if you want to learn how to shuffle, you gotta practice. If you don't practice, then you're not going to be able to get it, and I want you to be able to get it." Like that's one thing I love about my parents is that they're always helping me improve, like telling me, like my mom always tells me, just because you can't do something doesn't mean you can't try. So it's just really great how like, I mean, like another thing we talked about in my infant and toddler development class was about how playing is not as popular as it once was, and we discussed like why is that happening, and a lot of people are saying, well, it's because parents don't play with their kids, and that's something they should be doing because, you know, play is an important part of child development. So
Absolutely.
parent involvement just really, really helps.
Yeah, I think if the parents are involved, they'll also be more receptive to receiving services.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're wanting their child to improve, and so having that extra support will help. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we good? Ready to move on?
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you get a sense that parents were uncomfortable or had a sense of denial, shame, or embarrassment related to their children's special needs? Or did they feel a sense of resolution or acceptance and had a long-term plan for dealing with their child's special needs?
I think again it depends on the person, which is like the worst answer to give because we're meant to be specific, but it depends.
Well, like for my specific situation, the person was uncomfortable dealing with special needs children just because she wasn't like, she didn't know what to do because she wasn't like trained in what to do. She's just kind of like winging it kind of thing.
Yeah.
She's not their parent. So it's like what a parent can do and what like a caregiver can do, totally different things.
Yeah.
And so I think that like having a long-term plan definitely allows for like more growth with that child's special needs and gives like the person dealing with it like something to go to instead of just feeling overwhelmed with it. Yeah.
I think
What do you guys notice?
it's always kind of a combination of both, whether people want to admit it or not. I think some people come to terms with it better than other people. I think there's kind of a range. But I don't think shame's the right word, but I think there's always maybe a little sense of denial. I mean, nobody right away is going to notice something and go, oh, they must have this, or this, and reach for the sky. So they're going to, like, go for the, like, not worst case scenario, or try to say, well, maybe this, and like justify it. And then when things happen, I don't know if it's shame, but more, I mean, for example, my mom had an autistic son. As much as she noticed it, she's not a trained professional to help him, right? And so I think embarrassment to me, when I think of that, I more think of scared and not knowing what to do. And sometimes you may be like, what if I'm doing something wrong? And people are like, you're not helping them the right way. I think that's more what it is. And so I think in a sense, everyone goes through that. We all worry, even with normal children, if we're doing everything right. And so especially when you're given a child that needs even more attention, or as new things you're dealing with, I think you're gonna have, that embarrassment or worry or whatever. But then at the same time, once you start receiving the help or looking where to go, then you're gonna feel that sense of relief as you feel like you're making the right decision.
Well said.
Yeah. I also think that as much as social media is harmful sometimes, I feel like it's, especially lately, it's been such a great thing for people with special needs because of their Instagram pages, their blogs, their Facebook groups, so many different resources that parents can look at with no pressure to do anything. Like they can just get another parent's perspective from it. And I think that that's a really great thing that we can encourage parents to look at.
I think also like people are being accepted more. Like
definitely.
you see like people singing and like showing off talents that they have, and it's not just like typical people anymore. You see like all different kinds, and so I think that's really allowing for more people to feel comfortable and to like feel like included.
It's no secret.
That kind of makes me think of that. I don't know if you guys watch America's Got Talent, but there was an audition of this 29-year-old girl who lost her hearing in both ears. So during her audition, they show that she has, a translator, and it's just so cool how she was not like Simon was, telling her like he was so surprised, like he automatically could understand, and he was saying, that's amazing that even though you've lost your hearing, you still like want to do what you want to do. I mean, that's one thing that's great about people I know who might have special needs is that, okay, yeah, I have this, but I still want to do what I want to do. I still want to hopefully be what I can become and what I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with the including Rachel, you're talking about like people are being like included more. In my high school, there was this SDC class, and one thing that was really great about that class was that they had these special Olympics for these kids where they got to do these like special, like sport activities like basketball, track and field, soccer. And the best part about that was that when they announced it and they said we need volunteers, right off the bat almost every single other student was volunteering for this. And I got to do it once, and it was a really great experience, especially with seeing one of the kids who has a hard time with his legs and everything in the soccer part. He just did amazing, and they ended up winning. And I just remember feeling like that's because he kept getting encouragement from a lot of people. Like I would encourage him, you can do this. I know you can do this, Aaron. And when he was asked, what made you keep going? What made you decide to keep trying even though you have this problem with your legs? And he kept saying it was because of me believing in him and telling him he could do it.
That's awesome. Shirley, do you have anything else that you want to say?
Not really.
No, you're good. Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Is everyone done with like that question? Or did you have something to add about that, Rachel?
No.
Okay, I was just gonna say we need to do a 2-minute summary.
Yeah, that's what I was just
and that's what she's gonna watch.
So,
Shirley, do you want to do that since you haven't said much? Do you want to just summarize what we've all been saying for like 2 minutes?
I guess I'm not very good with sports.
You'll do great.
So like,
just like go through what we talked about, kind of thing.
Okay.
So, do you
and
have
the questions are on the side if you need a reminder.
Like about being normal, all that stuff.
So like, first of all, we all kind of agreed that there's not really a normal necessarily, because like everyone's different. Everyone develops at different times and different rates and paces and stuff. And usually, like, especially if parents have like other children and stuff, they usually, for the most part, can tell what anyway, okay.
You were saying they usually can tell what's different if they have other
Oh
children.
yeah, about like if their kids are delayed or if they have like special needs or whatever, they can usually tell if like something's up most of the time, depending on the parents and the child and the number of children and whatever. And for the most part, most of them are usually like they're not necessarily like embarrassed or don't feel ashamed, but they're mostly like scared of like how am I gonna handle this, like, and whatever. And, yeah.
Awesome. Does anyone else want to add anything?
Just great
Yeah.
job. I think we all did a good job.
Yeah, I think we're all contributed good.
Yeah.
So we have to do this again in like 2 weeks.
We do?